We are back with our politics lead. Senator Lindsey Graham is off the hook for now. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas today agreed to temporarily block a subpoena for the South Carolina Republican.
Acting unilaterally, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has briefly shielded Lindsey Graham from the Georgia subpoena. But this administrative stay may not be as impactful as you'd think. Welcome into TYT's Overruled. I'm your legal analyst, Adrienne Lawrence. Justice Clarence Thomas temporarily stayed the Georgia special grand jury subpoena issued to U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham concerning his 2 calls to the Georgia Secretary of State seeking more votes for Donald Trump. Now, Graham had run to the High Court on Friday after the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals rejected his request to dismiss the subpoena. Justice Thomas, who oversees the matters coming out of the 11th Circuit, acted swiftly. On Saturday, the right-wing justice ordered Georgia prosecutors to respond to Graham's petition by this Thursday. And on Monday, Thomas issued the administrative stay. Now, a few things to note about this stay. It's very common and procedural. The purpose of an administrative stay is to give the court breathing room to assess Graham's emergency petition. Now, this gives us confirmation that Thomas is going to have the entire court weigh in on whether to grant Graham's petition. What it doesn't mean is that the court is going to decide one way or the other. Rather, it's going to make a decision after reviewing both sides' arguments. In order for SCOTUS to take up a case, at least 4 justices must vote in favor of review. And we can likely expect some ruling on the matter after the Georgia prosecutors have submitted their briefing on Thursday. With all that said, Clarence Thomas has no business whatsoever being involved in any case involving Donald Trump's attempt to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Thomas's wife, Jenny Thomas, was involved in the insurrection such that she had to be called to testify before the 1-6 committee. Give me a break. Why her husband continues to involve himself in cases concerning the matter is absolutely absurd. 28 U.S.C. 455 requires that any justice recuse himself when his impartiality may be reasonably questioned or his spouse is known to have an interest that could substantially be affected by the outcome. To that end, Justice Thomas should have recused himself from reviewing Graham's emergency application. That being said, I'm not particularly surprised that Thomas issued a temporary stay. The man has no low, and it is just procedural. What I would be surprised by is if the rest of the court weighs in and shields Graham. His absurd arguments are absurd, claiming that his calls to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger were part of his duties as a lawmaker, and thus he has immunity under the speech and debate clause. Give me a break. Plus, the Court of Appeals said that Graham could exercise his immunity under the speech and debate clause if he were going to be questioned during his testimony and the question fell within the scope of the clause. And let's also remember, grand jury testimony is not public, so Graham shouldn't be fearful of memes of his testimony going viral. As I've said before, Graham, what he's really fearful of is everybody finding out that he pleaded the fifth, because that's exactly what he's going to do, and he'd likely face indictment. But I say bring on the consequences. I also note that the grand jury could move forward without his testimony and issue an indictment. So how do you think this is going to shake out? Will SCOTUS cover for Graham? Will the grand jury indict him based solely on Raffensperger's testimony? You let me know in the comments below. Hit that like and follow button. And thanks for watching.